Hi there, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I have a tutorial for you on how to make this really beautiful crocheted bag. And it has a lining and it has these really lovely handles. I love these handles, they're so much fun. And there are pockets inside. There's a big pocket and a little pocket. This would be good for sunglasses or reading glasses. And yeah, so this is such a fabulous bag. I'm super excited to show you how to make this. And I am going to do it in 3 parts because it's quite an involved tutorial. So there will be the bag itself in this tutorial, and there'll be a separate tutorial for the lining and one for the handles. So let's get started. All right, to assemble this bag, what you need is 13 granny squares, and you can choose any granny square pattern that you like to make this bag, but I do have a link in the description box below for this pattern, this video tutorial, and I call it a vintage lace granny square. And this square is 5 inches or 12.5 centimeters across. So I'll show you a way you can actually make this bag a little bit bigger. You can use that option as well. But for this version, you need 13 squares, and you want to have the yarn that you crocheted the squares with, some scissors, a darning needle, and a whole bunch of safety pins. Next, we'll lay this all out. Now, we're going to call this panel A, and you could call it the back of the bag or purse, and it's really just one side of the bag. So this is how you would lay out 8 of your squares for panel A. So you'll have 2, 4, 6 going on an angle here, and then the other 2 will be up here, and you'll have 8 squares, and this is the top of the purse where the handles will go and the opening will be. And then this here will be the bottom of the bag. And then you want to use your safety pins and pin all those squares together, and then we'll stitch them all together using a whip stitch. I will show you that in a little bit. Then for panel B is going to look like this. And it'll look like a cross. So 3 across like that, and then those there. It's kind of like a 5 die. And then you'll be stitching those together. So it's just like an X. So you'll be stitching all these seams here. And then I'll come back once these panels are stitched together and show you the next step. But here's the point at which you could either make this a bigger bag or keep it the size that we're going to do for this tutorial. So for this size, the way it would work is this square will fold over and stitched here and here. And then this square will fold towards the front and be stitched there and there. And then this square will fold over. And there you'll have your bag shape. And you see how nice that looks. And then the handles will be attached up here. But if you want to make this a bigger, wider bag, what you can do is make 2 more granny squares and put a square here and a square there. And so your panel B would be a little bit bigger, and you just fold this piece over, and that'd be the shape of your bag. And so I'll show you now how we're going to stitch this together. All right. So I have panel A all pinned together here, and I have the right side facing up because we'll be sewing them together from the right side up. So for panel A, you can stitch it together any way you like, but personally I'm going to do these pieces together here and make like 3 rows, and then I'll join this row and this row just like that. But it's totally up to you. But that's how I'm going to join them together. And then for panel B, you'll just doing 4 seams here. And then we'll be attaching panel A and B together. So I'll show you how we'll do the stitching. So if you had a keen eye, you'll have seen that this was already stitched together in the previous segment. And I'll show you how you'll stitch this together so it's nice and straight along the edges. So I've just taken these pins out here so I have room to work on this. So working with the squares facing up, and cut your yarn 3 times the length of the square plus a bit, and you'll put your squares together. Oh, and I just want to point out that we're going to be stitching into this V stitch here under these 2 stitches. This is the top of the last round. And normally, if you're doing a regular granny square, this V stitch would actually be sort of facing towards you, because in this pattern, we did our last row with the back side facing us. So this V stitch sort of faces towards the back of the square for this square. And so because these stitches will face away, you want to make sure when you're sewing this that you are getting those V stitches and not going into another part of the stitch, say like this stitch here. So just be very mindful of that. And so put them wrong side together, and we're starting in the very first double crochet going into this corner, and you go into the top of that double crochet. And that stitch is, you want to follow your double crochet up, and it's right there. And you see how those V stitches go to the back, and you're going under those V stitches. And on your next square, you want to find the first double crochet in that corner. And you may think that this stitch is the top of the double crochet, but that's from the previous double crochet. So you want to make sure you're going into the top of that double crochet. And that's just when you're starting off. And go under both stitches and leave a bit of a tail to darn in later on. And then you'll bring your needle around and you'll pick up the V under both stitches of the next V stitch, which is the top of the next double crochet, and then pick up the adjacent stitch in the other square. And snug that up like that. There we go. And then this is just a basic whip stitch, and again picking up that V stitch from that side and picking it up on this side here, just like that. And you want the stitches to be a nice tension, like not too tight but not too loose. And so you're just going to stitch all the way across like that, and I'll just speed it up here a little bit, and so you get the idea. And your stitch count should work out perfectly so that when you get to the end of the row, you'll have those 2 double crochets. So coming to the end of the row here, so you want to make sure to pick up those 2 double crochets from the corner. So there's the one, and again going into the top stitch of that and bringing it down, and then flip the work over and just darn in to the back. And normally when I'm making scarves and things like that, I just darn in my tails in. I go one way and then I come back the other way and just snip the tail off, and just trim it off there. But for the purse, for the bag, because I want it to be a nice, strong construction, I'm actually going to put a little knot in here. And this is totally up to you, but I'm just going to do a little knot like this and pull that snug, and then darn the tail back in the other direction as normal. So again, you don't have to do this, but I just think it'll make it a little bit more secure in the back, because it is going to be a purse or a handbag. And then you want to do the same to darn the other tail in. And so you can see here how nice that join looks. And it just looks so good. So go ahead and join that section, that square there and that square there, and that'll be panel B all done. and then do panel A as I said, and then I'll show you how to join the intersections of panel A when you're doing the long strip. So go ahead and do that. Welcome back. So I've stitched together these panels here and rows, and now I'm going to stitch them lengthwise here. And I'm going to start on this inside V here. And when you're joining a panel, you want to be joining into that second double crochet, or the first double crochet I should say, coming into the corner with the first double crochet coming into that corner, like sort of on the opposite side. And so because that will help to keep all your joins nice and square. And if you're not sure, join that together with a safety pin and count your stitches all the way along. So I counted along here, and this is at the 8th stitch, and continue counting. And sure enough, I'm finishing off in the corner on the outside of the double crochets of each corner. And then once you get to the intersection, what you'll have is your stitch of whip stitching. And I'm sorry, this is almost off screen, but here it is. There's the crocheted stitch, the double crochet stitches. But right here is this thread and this thread and this thread and this thread. Those are the whip stitch threads. And when you're whip stitching along, I'm sorry, having my dyslexic moment, you want to make sure to pick up those whip stitches as well, so you get a nice secure join in your corner. And then you'll just carry on and picking up your stitches. So that's how you want to do your intersections. In order to calculate how much yarn you will need, you just want to measure 2 lengths of your panel, and at least a square, maybe even more, and that'll allow for you to darn in your tail ends. All right, so I've stitched this whole panel A together, and you can see how nicely those intersections all join together and how nice that whip stitch works, particularly with this pattern. So now you'll flip panel A over so that the right side is facing down and the wrong side is facing up. And the wrong side actually looks really nice, doesn't it? And then you'll take panel B, which you stitch together here, and place that on top of panel A. And just like that. And then all you're going to do is bring your little corners up here and bring that up a little higher. Fold that over and just use a safety pin to pin that together into the corner. And take this side and pin the corner. And then pin this side in. And just like that. So now you'll be sewing whip stitching all these seams together. So you will not be sewing this edge here and this edge here. That's the opening to the purse, to the bag. So you'll be start sewing here. And again, starting at those top double crochet stitches. And you'll go down here, come into the corner, making sure to catch all your stitches in the corner and picking up your whip stitch as well. And then keep zigzagging down here, go along the bottom seam here. And sorry, this is off camera, but you'll see you'll come up and join here again, working the corner. And work that edge there, up here, and finishing up there. And you will need 2 or 3 lengths of yarn to do this because it's so long. So you'll just want to tie a knot and start a new piece. And then again, you want to make sure that you're starting at that those top double crochet posts and leave a good length of tail. Welcome back. So here it is all sewn together, and doesn't that just look so lovely? And you'll find when you get into the intersections that you'll be going into some of the same stitches. You're almost working kind of in a circle as you work into these intersections here. So once you get there, you'll see that you want to work around in there. And then, as I was saying, on this side here, you've got your double crochets there, and you're going to do 2 or 3 wraps and darn this in by going back into the back here for a 3rd time. Darn in, tie my little knot, and darn the rest of the tail end, because I want that to be nice and secure. So I'll just show you on this side here. But I almost got away with 2 pieces of yarn, but I ran out right here, so I had to add a 3rd piece of yarn on. So yeah, and then so you can see here what I'm talking about, joining into those double crochet stitches, and you come to the end. There's the beginning double crochets there. I know I keep repeating this, but it's a little bit hard to explain, but you want to make sure to get those top double crochets and then do 2 wraps and do the 3rd wrap down to the inside of the bag, and then darn that in and tie the knot and fasten that off. And then you can see what I mean here. If you're going into those 2 double crochets in each corner, your bag seam will have, this will all be part of the closed part, and then that's where the bag will open. So you can see that's sort of stitched up the side there. That's where the seam goes to there and there. So go ahead, darn in your tail ends. And then the next thing we're going to do is a row of single crochet around the opening of the bag. All right, so all the tail ends are darned in, and we'll just do a row of single crochet. So just create a slip knot and put that on your hook. And you can join into any stitch along the top of your opening. So I'll just join in close to the corner so I can show you how to go into the corner here. So going under 2 loops, under 2 stitches there, bring the yarn through, flip your tail over, and do a single crochet. So you're joining on with a single crochet. And then you'll just do a single crochet into the top stitch, picking up both of those top posts of the stitch, going all the way around. And then when you come into your corners, you'll have your last stitch there, but then you're going to have the whip stitch, and you can see right there is the whip stitch, and you want to pick that up as well. And then this next stitch here is it's a little bit of a long stitch, so I'm actually going to go in and pick up the stitch underneath and go under 3 loops there all together. So it's a little bit tighter of a single crochet. And then as I come out, I have a whip stitch here from this intersection. So go into that. And then just carry on with the regular stitches. And carry on and just go along just like that. And I'll show you how that looks. You can see, and it just creates a nice little finish, and it goes nicely around the inside corner. And depending how you stitch these together, this may not be perfectly aligned, but that's okay. It'll just all blend in. So I'll just go up to the corner and show you here how to do the corner. So as you come into the corner, you'll have your 2 double crochets in the corner. So you'll go into this top stitch here with a single crochet, and then in between those 2 double crochets, just do 2 single crochets, and that will just take you around the tip. And then you just come out of that corner and then just carry on crocheting into the stitches as usual. And again, going under both loops of the stitches here along the top of the bag. And I'll just pull that out and you'll see how nice that looks. And that's just creating a really nice finish all the way around. So go ahead and work your way all the way around with a single crochet, working the inside V's in the same and the tips in the way I just showed you. And I'll see you on the other side. All right, so just doing the last single crochet, and I'll just join this round by going under the 2 loops of that beginning single crochet and just join with a slip stitch and just cut that off and then pull that out and just go ahead and darn in your tail ends. So there we go. That completes the assembly of the bag itself. And now we are going to do a lining, and that's an option. You don't have to. You can skip right to the tutorial for the handles. But I really think it's important that a crochet bag needs to have a lining, because no matter what you do in and of itself, it just doesn't have the integrity or strength to hold any kind of weight or volume. So I really recommend doing a lining for any crochet bag that you make. So that will be in a separate tutorial, and in that video I'll be lining it either with this fabric here or this fabric here. I haven't decided yet, and I'll put a link to that video below. And I'm going to show you how to do a lining by hand sewing. I do have another video tutorial that I put a link to below that shows you how you can use a sewing machine to do a lining. And creating a real sturdy lining with interfacing and like that. But you need a sewing machine for that. But this one here, we're just going to do by hand, so you don't have to have a sewing machine for that. And then I'll also have a separate tutorial on how to attach the handles to the crocheted bag. And again, the links for all of those will be down below. So I hope you're enjoying this tutorial so far. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. Thank you for joining me.